to Small Business Small Talk, a show that provides information, ideas, and encouraging entertainment to help you ride the business roller coaster and bring your big ideas to life. I am your host, Christy Smollett, and I really want to thank you for joining us for season 1, another episode of 2020. And I am so excited to have my guest today. She has become a really not deep friend, but really fun friend of mine, Dee Dee Taylor. She's the owner of 502 Hemp. Yes, I said hemp. And I could go through her list of accolades, but I really want her to share her story. So welcome to Small Business Small Talk, Dee Dee.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. To say it'll be entertaining is an understatement, maybe. So we'll go with that. Me and my
our little green room session prior to hitting the record button. Yeah, this will be fun.
Absolutely. So I guess where do I start? Let's see. I would have never guessed in a million years that this is what I would have been doing for a living. I was a paralegal. So I was I did 20 years in the paralegal field, I did family law, I did collections, I did some foreclosure work when I first moved to Louisville. Was not a fan, but I did do more family law than I think anything else. So my background, I have a bachelor's degree in paralegal studies. I would have never guessed. Now, don't get me wrong. I had a little fun in college, but that was college, right? And it was not hemp. We'll leave it at that. But once you grow up, you kind of get out of that stuff, and that was because there's a boy. There's always a boy involved. But what brought me to this business and this industry was kind of surreal, I guess. I guess that's the word to put it. But my husband suffers from seizures, and he's my second husband. I actually met him in 2009, and it was kind of at the height of his seizures. And God love him, he was even worried about telling me that he had seizures because he didn't think I would want to date him. And I was just like, okay, what kind of a person would I be if I didn't date someone who had I didn't understand that, but I understood his fear. Plus I am a catch, so what was that?
Who wouldn't want that?
Right. So I can see why I was a little nervous. But I think it was 2010. He had a really bad seizure, and I hadn't moved here yet to be with him and his then daughter, who is now my daughter. But he had a really bad seizure, and he actually woke up like 5 blocks away inside a Speedway at the beer cooler. So his running joke is, no, even though I was out of my mind, I could still find the beer. So I love him. But I went with it, right? I still use that to this day because it is kind of comical. Completely out of his mind with the seizure, but could find the beer. But I went with him to his neurologist appointment, and all they did is they just wanted to increase his pills. They already had him up to 28 pills a day. He was taking a mixture of Lamictal, Dilantin, and phenobarbital, and he was still having seizures. He was having, and they were the grand mal ones, so he was having 2 to 4 a month. And, he had his daughter was 11 when they started happening, and he wasn't born with seizures. They were adult onset seizures. So it was almost even worse. So trying to deal with it, and, financially for him, it was devastating. I mean, he'd wake up in the hospital and be like, oh no, and that's would start all over again. But, we got to talking, and I had seen on Facebook somewhere, like someone smoking some marijuana that helped them with their seizures. And I was like, you might want to look into that. But, we're not a legal state. It wasn't like you could just go get it anywhere. We were raising a daughter, and, it's illegal. So even though I don't personally feel like it's a drug, because it's not, and we'll get into that later. But I said, we need to do something. So he actually went out west and learned about CBD oil and learned how to make it. So he, not really me, because I was terrified being the paralegal that I am of getting in trouble.
That would be both sides of the fence, wouldn't it? Like in your own house.
Yes. But he started making it at home. I mean, it was kind of crazy too. It looked like copper pots, like he was selling it. He did it with an ethanol extraction. So he started making his own medicine at home, and he got off all 28 pills. So all 3 of those prescriptions, he got off of all of them. And once he started doing the CBD oil, he went 5 years without a seizure. 5.
Wow.
And then I was like, yeah, there's definitely something to this. And I couldn't take all the credit. I'm sure I relieved a lot of his stress, but I can't take all the credit for that. It is definitely the CBD oil. But he, he started feeling better, like in the very first few months of our relationship from 2009 to 2010, and he started doing the CBD oil. He didn't remember a lot of our relationship because the medication kind of gave him like, what did he say? It's like Swiss cheese. Like there was holes missing in his memory.
Right.
And it wasn't necessarily the seizures, it was the medication and the side effects from those prescription medications. So once we made that switch to the CBD oil, there was kind of no turning back. It was working for him. In 2014, when hemp became legal, the first federal farm bill to go through the hemp pilot program in Kentucky, they had their own little program. He became one of the first licensed processors in the state. And his company is still obviously running today. It's Commonwealth Extracts. So I was like, yep, let's do it. This is the scariest thing I've ever done. Like we went all in. And I was like, oh my God, we're going to go to jail. We're going to go to prison. I'm thinking of, it hadn't been removed from the DEA's, controlled substance list yet. So technically what my husband was doing was still federally illegal. Granted, the Farm Bill opened it up to hemp processing and growing hemp again in the States, but under the DEA's guise, it was still very much a federal crime. So, I mean, at one point, we got married in 2013, and at one point in, I think it was 2015, I was like, do we need to get a divorce so I don't, you know what I mean? I was so afraid that the DEA was going to come in and take everything. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what do we do here? And I even talked to an attorney about it. Thank God we didn't. We're still married. It's good. But there was just that fear. I had a lot of that fear. Well, then in 2016, my boss kind of cut my hours. She was an attorney and I love her dearly. She's still a good friend of mine. And one of the best divorce attorneys. So if anyone does need a reference there, I can give that. Most ethical attorney I've ever worked for too. But anyway, she had to cut my hours, and I understand business, it happens. But I started freaking out because it really hadn't taken off for John yet. So I was scared to death. I mean, we had a daughter, in high school, getting ready to go to college. I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do? My anxiety went through the roof. So I was like, I called my husband. He was in a meeting. I called him crying in tears, almost wrecked the car, couldn't breathe. And he's like, would you just try the blank CBD oil? And I'm like, okay, all right, I'll try it. And he brought it home. He brought the grossest tasting one he had home to me. And to this day, I can't, won't even taste it to see if it's changed. It's just so gross to me. I do still sell it, which surprise, surprise, some people love it. So everyone has a different palate. That's all I got to say about that. But I started taking it. It was his 4,000 milligram. And I was probably taking probably a little bit too much. But I tell you what, I noticed within 3 to 5 days, I think it was, I started sleeping better. Because before going through the anxiety, if I wasn't sleeping, my anxiety would be worse the next day. If I wasn't getting enough sleep, because I'd be up and tossing and turning and thinking about everything, and I couldn't shut my mind off because I'm trying to fix everything. And, you have no control over most of the stuff in the world anyway. So why do we worry about it at night when we're trying to sleep? Right.
Because we're most vulnerable right then. Everything's quiet. Yeah.
Yep.
I'll just pile. Yep. I get it. I can go to sleep, but I can't rest because my mind's still going.
Yes. Yep. And I would go to sleep, but then I'd wake up in the middle of the night and my brain would be like turned on instantly. And then I'm thinking about everything that's going on or what have you. Well, I noticed when I started with the CBD oil that it stopped doing that. And I was like, man, this is kind of cool. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good. That weight on my chest felt like it was starting to be relieved, and it wasn't overnight and it did take time. But I looked at my husband, I said, you might be onto something. And he's like, yeah. Well, I mean, right. We had studied it for his seizures, but I didn't understand how it could work for his seizures, and then still work for my anxiety. Well, me being the natural research person I am, reading and studying, I was like, okay, now I have to figure out why. Why is this working for you? How's it going to work for me? And why does it work for me? So I literally just kind of self-taught myself and read, and I read and went stuff on Facebook, and it wasn't, things like that. I mean, literal journals. Our government owns a patent on cannabis oil and how it helps people with seizures and helps people with schizophrenia and helps people with Parkinson's. So it kind of started from there. And that's really what gave my husband that drive to pursue this career. And then me, myself, when I started using it for my issues, and I was like, John, man, the whole world needs this stuff. And the crazy thing is that actually everyone does. And most people will think, you're a snake oil salesman. And I'm like, I would have thought the same thing too, had I not used it myself. And don't get me wrong, in this industry, there are some snake oil people, and
Right.
their stuff is not good quality. And I've even taken people, and I'm bad about this because I'm like one of those little myth busters. If it's too good to be true, I will find out. You know what I mean? That's the paralegal in me. And I've actually taken other people's certificates of analysis and totally debunked them, and how they are literally not putting enough CBD in their products, but yet they're still selling it and people are buying it because they don't know. So
Yeah,
that's just
you're
me.
right. The general public doesn't know. I mean, this is one of
They
those
don't.
issues I have about marketing and news headlines and things like that, is that very
Yes.
quick to just believe that the first thing that we see. Again, we talked about, before we came on air, we talked about that frame of
Yep.
reference and hairstyles. It's the same for everything. Like, the first thing
It
you
is.
see is that first frame of reference you have about that specific thing. And if your frame of reference for decades has always been, you know, as my mama
Right.
was good at, wacky backy,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Same. You're gonna get in trouble if you do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Versus, I even have some friends who had to move from Indiana to Colorado because their daughter had infantile spasm disorder,
Oh,
amongst some other. Yeah, she was having 300 a day, and they had taken her everywhere they possibly could think of, and she was not predicted to last past 2 years. And so that's when they discovered the CBD oil,
right.
something specific to Emily that could help her. And they
Yep.
moved, they picked it, like, they were on a trajectory for him to join the Navy and her to do certain
Oh,
things.
wow.
And they just said, in one day, that's it, we're moving. And they did. And now Emily is like almost 10.
That's awesome. It's
Holy
awesome.
gosh. When she first started showing pictures of, uh, what broke me was when you have this non responsive child that is almost 2 years old, and for the very first time is looking at the camera holding a French fry all by herself. I know. I was like, that's one of those things that
I can see y'all on the fields. I'm telling you, I love those kind of stories because it's true.
it is true. And
It is.
that their story alone helped, because I grew up in a family, on one side of my family, who was very much addict driven.
Mhm.
And so when you talk about cannabis, it's always been associated because of marijuana. And
Right.
marijuana can get you put in jail. I know we had to go pick up my dad plenty of times. So
Mhm.
that has been my childhood association. But then seeing their story and,
Mhm.
hearing yours, and I'm like, okay, there's really got to be something to this. My paradigm over time has shifted tremendously. I'm in total support of it. So yeah, I'm sorry, keep going.
Well, but that's true. I mean, I even was the same way. Yes, college, of course.
Mhm.
And then as an adult, I'm like, well, I've got adult things I'm not that way. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, but I'd rather have a piece of cheesecake than do
Right.
any kind of drug. Right? That's just me.
Exactly.
So,
I
we
know
all
what
have
that
our own
pleasure
vices.
from that.
We all got our own vices. But it was weird because even I felt that same way. And I'm like, oh God, we're going to get in so much trouble for this. But then once it started working for him, started working for me, and I started doing my homework, you know, I think, and this is one thing that really got me. And I still to this day will say it to people. I understand we have been conditioned to think that marijuana, the cannabis plant, because it's the same plant. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's the same darn plant. But we have been conditioned to say that it is, will get you hooked on other drugs. It's a gateway drug. But the thing is, all the drugs that we consume in our body, right? So if you take the pill, if you're a woman, if you take Advil, Tylenol, if you do meth, if you do heroin, if you do coke, your body will get rid of that poison, that drug, between 24 to 72 hours typically, right? And that's, people can pass a drug test because it's out of their system by then. Well, the one thing about marijuana is the THC is one cannabinoid, by the way. It keeps it. Your body keeps it, can keep it for up to 30 days. You smoke one joint. Well, you smoked one joint 30 days ago and you've still got some in your system. If it was a drug, a true drug and poison, your body would get rid of it. Why does your body keep it? Because it uses it. It's not a drug. CBD and all the other cannabinoids that are in the hemp plant and in the marijuana plant. I mean, marijuana is bred to be high THC to get you high. Hemp is bred to be low THC, high CBD, because it has more of the healing properties, right? Well, but there's about 113 different cannabinoids in this plant. I think they're slowly discovering more too, but all of these cannabinoids work together and your body uses them. We have, and this is what killed me about all this, we actually have a system called our endocannabinoid system. It is in our body, whole endocannabinoid system. We have CB1 and CB2 receptors. Those receptors bind with the cannabinoids in the plant and naturally helps your body heal itself, naturally finds its homeostasis. I shouldn't say it won't cure anything. It's not the cure-all for everything either. But I think it does provide your body some help. So to help your body build healthy cells, to help your body fight with the tremors, with the Parkinson's, with the seizures. It's very good neurological. Your body needs these cannabinoids in their diet. I've read research to where they are doing direct links to cannabinoid deficiency for women with fibromyalgia. Well, all these things have increased. Fibromyalgia's increased, autism's increased, cancer, everything that you can imagine. Granted, we got much more people on the earth now and, science is advanced. But what kills me about it is before all of this stuff was outlawed, what was the number one prescribed prescription medication? Cannabis oil. It worked. It helped. Now, granted, they also prescribed some really wonky things too back then, but I think people, right. But I think they kind of also knew that why would this plant be on earth and it was vast. I mean, especially Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky's the number one place for hemp to grow because of the soil, the rich history. I mean, it really is the best place to grow hemp and marijuana too. But there's a reason for that, and, animals used to eat the weed that grows around and would get the cannabinoids in their system. And then we would eat the animals. So it was such a part of our diet before they outlawed everything back in the 30s that it makes sense why all these things are coming and people are sicker than they've ever been. I mean, the food's not great either. That's another topic for a different day.
Oh, precision.
Right. But it makes sense. And hemp is a superfood. It's got omega-3, 6, and 9 more so than fish oil. The protein value in hemp is amazing. So not only can you have it for the diet, for your food, to add it into your food, but also the medical side of it with the CBD oil. I'm not one that, I don't get high. I made that mistake. I think after my mom passed away, I had a horrible panic attack and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm never doing that again. But the CBD, that's actually helped panic attacks. That's actually helped my anxiety. So I have that frame of reference. I think, and honestly, back in 2016, after I started using it for a while, I looked at my husband, I said, do you think I think this would be kind of cool to try to get this out to the public and provide this. And he's like, I said, but I'm not a salesperson. He goes, you'd probably be great at it then. I said, I know. I said, but I'm super honest. He goes, be even better at it then. And I said, all right, why don't I try it? So back in 2016, I was probably one of the first to set up around fairs and festivals. I got my first little thing was at the Flea Off Market. So I was the kind of the first one out there trying to get it out there and do it. And it was, most people thought I was totally committing a crime. They're like, oh my God, is this legal? And I'm like, yes, I promise it is. I feel like I've been able to educate my customers as I've gone along. I think that's huge when it comes to this industry because I'm not a stoner. I don't look like a stoner. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't have that perception that most people think of when, you're in the hemp industry or even in medical marijuana business.
Right. You're not walking into the incense shop.
Right. It's not like, yeah. I think it's, now don't get me wrong. There are some that are really like that and I get it. And that's their thing, but we won't go there. But I think I've always been more about the health without the high. And that to me is what CBD is literally the health without the high. And I think that has made such a big difference especially for my customers. I mean, because there is still a stigma with it. That's why even in my logo, you don't see a big pot leaf. I knew that wouldn't, that even us being in Louisville and it's more of a liberal type city, that's not the whole world. That's not the whole country. It's not the whole state. Most people still have that stigma associated with it. And I love being able to educate people and provide them with real answers and be honest and upfront about it. Am I going to tell you it's going to cure whatever it is that you want to take it for? No, but it'll probably help your body help itself. And that's kind of the way I've done business from the beginning. The one thing about CBD oils that people are like, well, I tried it from blah, 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 and it didn't work for me. And I said, my first question is, what was the milligram you tried? Did you try increasing it? Did you look at their certificates of analysis? Is what they have match the label, what's in the bottle? And, most people don't think to look at that stuff or even know. I mean, there's 3 extraction methods that are being used right now. One is the CO2 extraction, which is what my husband uses. It's the safest, healthiest, cleanest. Another one is ethanol extraction, which is alcohol based, which is what my husband first did when we were making it in the basement. And alcohol, obviously that's a big thing here in Kentucky. And then the third extraction process is what is called a hydrocarbon. Well, a hydrocarbon, if you don't know, it's butane. Butane is lighter fluid. It's never been recognized as safe for human consumption ever. Well, there's a local health food store that carries a brand that uses butane to extract with. I had a serious problem with that. And honest to goodness, that is what made me open up my 502 hemp store, because no one really knew how to get the CBD, even though they wanted it. They wanted to try it. They'd heard little snippets about it, but that was kind of the only local place that was selling it at the time. I about lost my mind. I was like, and most people, it wasn't on their, their bottle that said it's a hydrocarbon extraction.
The general public is not going to know the difference between the extraction methods.
Not at all. And that company swears that it's the best extraction method because it leaves most of the plant parts. Okay, I'll give you that. But one, most people can't stand the taste of that. And 2, what residuals is it leaving? Because unless you're using lab quality butane, which I seriously doubt they are, because you got to have a special license, I believe, to get that. Don't quote me on that. Oh yeah, this is live. But anyway, I don't think that they're using lab quality butane. Okay. And I'm sorry, but if I'm going to use a product and put it in my body, I wouldn't want to risk that. Do you know what I mean? If there's even a possibility of residuals left over from the butane. So I love the fact that my husband's company did not cut corners just because it was cheaper to use that kind of extraction method. CO2 is more expensive, but I also believe it quality is better. You don't have to worry so much about residuals. It's toxic less, solvent less. Yeah, solvent less is what they use.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. And then plus, not only do they third-party test the hemp that is grown organically in Kentucky, because that's all we use is Kentucky hemp. And these farmers have been with him since the beginning. So they know what they're doing. They know how to grow it. So all of their plants are consistent because it was a specific variety of hemp plant that my husband chose, the high cannabinoids and all that good stuff. So our products are always consistent. I think that's important. But not only do they third party test it with an independent lab, but they also have a PhD chemist in-house that does the analytical testing. So on, like, I didn't bring a bottle, darn it, but like on a little bottle, it says 250 milligrams, right? You can rest assured that there's 250 milligrams of CBD in that bottle. Lab reports to show and to prove it. I think that's important. And most people don't know to even ask for that stuff. They don't know to check on that stuff. They may have read something about it, but they don't really know. And I think it's up to people that are in this industry. If you're going to be in this industry, provide a good product. Don't be in it to just sell it and make money. That is the one thing that's infuriated me about this business, because there's a lot of people out there that do that.
There,
You know,
and you have just said a statement that crosses all industries.
yes.
Right?
Yep.
There's a
Yes.
lot of times, you know, and especially in a time like we're recording this now with the COVID issues, that a lot of people who want to make money as fast as possible will find the thing that will take advantage of the most people for the biggest buck.
Yep. And that infuriates me.
It absolutely does, because I hate it that people fall for it, whatever the thing is. And I also hate it that I can see it. Like,
yep.
I don't know what to do about that.
And see, that happened in this industry too, with all this going on. A company introduced hand sanitizer with CBD in it. And I was like, and then of course they're charging a lot more. And I'm like, first off, that is BS. And don't get me wrong, CBD lotion is fabulous. CBD bath bombs are to die for, because I partake on those quite a bit. But it's a pandemic. Just sell hand sanitizer. Do you know what I mean? Don't put an unapproved substance in it that has absolutely no antiviral anything. That just infuriated me. I even talked to the PhD chemist. I said, and I wrote this big old blog about it because I was just furious. And to know that people were paying more for it just because it was hand sanitizer, I was just like, that's ridiculous. That is so ridiculous. So I talked to my husband's PhD chemist, and I was like, Dr. McKinney, I said, tell me I'm wrong. I mean, and I'll shut up and I'll, back off. And he's like, no, you're absolutely right. CBD should not be in hand sanitizer. And it's not even approved right now by the WHO or the FDA as an ingredient in hand sanitizer. So, and that of course irritated me. So luckily my husband's company was able to kind of switch gears and make just plain old hand sanitizer.
I was going to ask, because the whole basement method, is that how you innovated over to hand sanitizer?
It is, yeah. Yeah. So I have the hand sanitizer available, little personal bottles too, but I've named it just hand sanitizer. No CBD in it. Like literally that's what I named it. And it works.
Obvious product ever.
Right? And I'm not gouging people. It's $4 for 4 ounces. So, $1 an ounce. And then I got in half gallons too. And I've sold quite a bit, and especially to a lot of businesses that are getting ready to open and they need to be able to clean and keep things clean and stuff. Right. And I'm glad that we were able to do that for the community, because to me, and that even my husband, and he made me cry, and I'll share this with you. I got teared up when he came home and told me, he goes, yeah, we took 20 gallons down to the homeless shelters. And I was like, that's why I love you. So Aww. Sweet. And he's like, well, we're in this to help everybody. And I said, yes, we are. So I know in my heart, and I know as well, I can speak for my husband, we got in this business to help others, whether it's with the CBD or him switching gears to make hand sanitizer because he had the alcohol, for some of the products and stuff, and could get it and had a good supply chain. It's those things. We've always been in it to help. And it's funny, in the beginning, my husband's like, oh, this is going to be great. You hear people talking about $1 billion industry. I can assure you, I am not a billionaire. We won't be billionaires, and I'm okay with that. I'm just happy to be able to provide a product, good quality product, give people sound advice, help them with their dosing, and actually be educated on the products that we have. And I think that's important. And being able to, I love, love, love hearing my customer success stories. That I will get the biggest round of goose pimples and get teary eyed when, someone who's been battling cancer and this is the only thing that kept them from feeling all the pain, or it kept them to where they could eat still and have the energy to do things while they're battling this. Or one customer last night, every time he comes in, I almost cry because he calls me his angel. And I'm like, oh, I'm no angel. He is, you're mine. And it makes me feel so good. But, he had suffered with colitis for the longest time and he would call them episodes, right? Well, last night I actually was walking out the door and just shut down and he goes, oh no, I missed you. I'm like, no, honey, it's okay. What do you need? And I walked back in and got what he needed. And then he left and went around the corner and he goes, oh, I forgot to tell you, it's been 2 months since I've had an episode. And I'm just like, you know what I mean? Do a little dance like in the parking lot. And he goes, you are my angel, and just yelled it. And that's to me what makes it worth it, is hearing how well this is helping people. And, it takes time too to find that dose that works for you. It's not an overnight fix. Some people need to take more. I had to increase mine with all this COVID stuff going on because the anxiety started coming back in a little bit. I'm like, nope. So I've increased my dose. And I'm constantly learning about new milligrams, what people suggest, but I don't care how much research is done. Every human, we are all different. We all metabolize this differently. Our bodies use it differently. So while you may have a friend that tells you that 250 milligrams per bottle works for her anxiety, you may need the 750, 25 milligrams a day. And everybody's different, and it's not based on weight. I don't care what they say about that because I'm not a little big girl, right? But my normal is 25 milligrams. Well, I've got an employee, she's probably 1/10 of my size, and she needs about 75 to 100 milligrams a day, but she has chronic migraines. Mine's just for anxiety. So like I said, our bodies just use this differently. And that's what we try to help with here. And that's why I consider ourselves a wellness center and not just a dispensary. We also offer other health items, and we even have a massage therapist here, not right now. God love her. I can't wait till she comes back because I miss her. But other things like that too. And even in my LaGrange store, I've got yoga classes when they're back up and running and a fitness coach that's there. So it's like all of it can be intertwined as far as your health goes, and taking CBD oil and even getting just the hemp food in your diet too.
Well, you're not just providing a product, you're providing a health solution all the way through. So you're not just saying, here, take this and feel better. You're just like, okay, once you feel better, now what? Like, here's the holistic aspect to get you where you want to be.
Yep. And that's what I love doing this. I mean, and it takes time, but we offer so many different items too to help with whatever your ailments are. So we're here not to sell you the highest milligram strength, because you probably won't need that. Unless you have cancer, you're not going to need my 3,000 milligram. I doubt you will need that much. But that's what we're here for. It's to guide people and help them. And they're not just a customer. They become part of the 502 Hemp family. I want to know if you've got questions or it's not working, call us. That's why we're here. Like, you're not just go away. You know what I mean? You're not just come in, buy your stuff and leave. That's never what we've been about. So I think that's important, people to be able to come back in. And if they still have questions, to call us or email us or stop in,
Well, and I
even have questions.
I'm the same way with my clients, and I deal with business related stuff. So marketing and training people and all that kind of, when they can see the different, but it's not a one and done situation ever. Like, marketing is definitely, you're not, this one thing is going to be the solution to everything. Never.
It's not.
And I love, so here's a good success story for you and me at the same time. So one of my clients got me a present for Christmas, and it was from 502 Hemp. It was the Orange Dreamsicle 250. So I was like,
that's my favorite. Good.
Good. The Orange Dreamsicle is definitely doable, because you're right. If you go the all natural.
Some of them are really gross tasting, aren't
Really
they?
all natural. When they say weed, it's all natural.
Yep. And we have that flavor too. But, and that was the one awesome thing that I was like, I'm picking my own darn flavors. I'm going to get this. It took me a while to get my own brand of the CBD oil. But once I did, I was like, yeah, I don't want any of those nasty flavors. We're going to do some fun flavors. That orange dreamsicle, that is the customer favorite. But honestly, my favorite is the vanilla latte. I love coffee flavored stuff. I do. It's my favorite. I love that one. So, but it's fun and everybody's different too. So, before all this COVID stuff, we would do little taste testers, right? So people could come in and taste what they like the best. And then because I want to be happy, I want them to be able to take it. I don't want them to feel like they've just spent, 40, $50 on something that is gross and they don't want to take it. So that was important to me too. And I want them to be comfortable with taking it daily, obviously, because you should.
Right.
And that was a big thing. Well, now it's kind of a little harder with this COVID stuff and, being safe and things like that, not doing the taste test, but we're pretty good at describing them. So,
because you'll be able to are you officially reopened? Or are you opening?
I did. I went ahead and officially reopened Monday. We've got, tape out to not cross behind this line, and we're all wearing masks when people come in, and we obviously have the hand sanitizer out there for everybody, people's use and to buy. But we're technically open. We did, when things closed down, we went to curbside and online and deliveries, and we're still offering that too. We're still setting the table up out front in case people don't want to come in. I totally understand. So we kind of put that out like, we'll be safe for you, you be safe for us. Don't come in if you're sick. Obviously we can ship it to you. You ain't gotta leave your house. That's not a problem. So just trying to be able to still be there for our customers, because especially now everyone's anxiety is just
roof.
It is. I understand that probably more than most people. I totally get it. My fear is, what if my husband with his seizure disorder, what if he gets it? Is he technically immunocompromised? To me, he is. Now, he would be the first one to tell you he is not, and he will be fine. You know what I mean? And I love that about him, but those are my little worries. So, and with me being in the public and working in the public more so than him, I worried that I would be the carrier, or, you know what I mean? Just like everybody else's fears. So we're very religious about the cleaning here. I have amazing staff, and I've had one. The others we kind of did have to downsize, but I've had one with me since the beginning of it, and she is like the mom for everyone, right? So she's very like, this is how we clean, and she was a former nurse, so she's like, this is how we, So it's been, that has been a lifesaver, because I'm like, well, I'm sure that, nope, this is how we need to do this. I'm like, okay, perfect. So she's really made a huge difference when it comes to stuff like that, and you kind of, you get lackadaisical too. Like I went to where I had to take something to the post office, and a gentleman was holding the door open for me. And I'm like, I got the door, go away. You're too close to me. Do you know what I mean? But it's that kind of stuff where you want to be nice, but at the same time, you are too close, way too close for comfort. So it's that stuff. You gotta be, it's the new normal, right?
It's been definitely a mental adjustment, behavior adjustment. It's a lot to adjust to, both coming into, hey, we have COVID, to, hey, we can now like live like we don't have COVID. Like,
but can we?
Can we? Like, I don't even know.
Right. Right.
And of course, I'm not a fan. I've never been very quiet about not being a fan of news media and headlines and, stupid marketing and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very, not hateful, but I'm vocal enough that people should know that where I stand with it. And it does not help the situation at all. Like, it just doesn't help. So I'm glad that you are one of those people who are providing services and products that help people in that situation.
Right. Well, and I never made a claim that it would cure the coronavirus. I actually wrote a blog debunking that, because there was a company that was doing that.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, Are you kidding me? Yes, it can help your immune system to an extent, but it is not going to keep you from catching the coronavirus, and it's not going to cure you from the coronavirus. So it's that kind of stuff. And one of my friends was like, maybe you just need to do a hemp debunk myth type podcast to talk about that stuff, Dini, because I write the blogs on it, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I should, because that kind of stuff, I'm like, no, it's already a hard enough industry for people to believe that, that isn't snake oil. And when you throw something like that in to get business and
Makes it
sales,
snake oil.
right? That's awful. It's awful. So, but
Yeah, too bad we don't have the Wild West law back in the, somebody did something like that. We could just
right?
take
They
that.
could never do business again. Yeah. I hear you on that one.
But we have to be compassionate and understanding. So the answer would be just ignore that.
You know what? Karma. I don't
That's
have to worry
right.
about it. I don't have to take care of it. Karma will take care of that.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. It's been
Yep.
that's a whole podcast by itself.
Yes, it is. I love karma.
Carmen's my friend over the years.
Mine too. Cool. Did I answer everything pretty
Yes,
much?
I mean we've honestly walked through all of the basics of what I was going to ask about. You just naturally did it, so you did a great job. But I do have one more question for whoever's listening out there. Since you went from one type of career to another, okay, so now you're a businesswoman and your business has expanded, so you've already hit that growth stage. If you were to give some advice to other new business owners out there or those that are still growing, what would you say is a big learning lesson that should be a success tip for them?
Take time for yourself. Don't let your business and the growth of the business keep you from being who you are personally. So make sure you take time to spend time with your family and take time to spend time with your husband and not talk about business, because he and I are bad about that. But you know what I mean? Just don't lose you and make sure you still take care of yourself. I think that's probably, and I still struggle with that sometimes too, because I am always focused on my business, but I have at least one day off where I really try not to look at emails, try not to answer my phone and I hate that because I do like to take care of my customers, but you got to make that time for yourself. And I think that's probably the most important thing. And that I struggle with too. And I think any small business person, because you're always worried about, am I gonna be able to pay the lights today? Little things like that. But I think that's important not to stop working out, not to stop taking care of yourself, still eating healthy, just those little things, and enjoy the ride, man. You got to enjoy it. Like that's the one thing about this. Those success stories keep me going, and listening to how awesome people are doing with the product and how much it's helping them. That gives me so much pleasure that's what keeps me getting up every day. And I love that part of my job. I mean, I love owning that in this type of field, in this business, and something that's so new and crazy. But you got to enjoy what you're doing. I mean, if you don't find the love in it, why are you going to keep doing it? Right?
Absolutely.
That's kind of, I mean, if you don't love what you do, why are you doing it? I mean, that's kind of how had gotten to the paralegal stuff too. It just becomes so mundane, and I wasn't learning anything new, and I needed a change. And this scared the bejeebies out of me, even to step off into this. And it's funny, my husband will be like, man, girl, he goes, honey, do you not realize how far you've come? And I'm like, yeah, and it's being humble about it too. Cause, I'll get people be like, I saw you on TV, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you did. Okay. And it's like, I get embarrassed because I was always the paralegal in the background doing the work, not being out front and being that voice of the
Welcome
brand.
to the front stage.
Right. And it's still new to me. So but I'm me, and I think people respect that. And I think just being a business owner too, don't try to put on airs. If that's not you, why are you trying to be that? Do you know what I mean? So, and I get it. Money changes people, but Well, it hasn't changed me because I'm still working for that, but that's okay.
Money, what is
Again,
that?
that's not, right?
Oh, wait, there it went.
I'm just like, woo. But I think, be yourself. I think that's the number one advice I could give people, because I know if I'm walking into a business and if I don't have that connection with someone, why do I want to go back? So
Absolutely. Well, Dee Dee, thank you so very much for being our guest today on Small Business Small Talk.
I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so glad, and excited to see what else comes with you. We'll have you again at some point for an update.
Awesome. Yay.
Yes.
Yay.
So for all of you watching and listening out there, thank you so much for your time today. Keep asking, keep questioning, find out more, be curious about what you're taking into yourself and your body, both your mind and your body. Question it. Make sure you do your research. So thank you, Dee Dee, very much for all of that today of Small Talk. And remember, everybody, you can ask Alexa or Google to play the recent episode of Small Business Small Talk, and it will. So catch us again on the next episode for Small Business Small Talk. I've been your host, Chrissy Smallwood, and thank you very much.